Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of House of the Dragon Episode 3. So, this episode actually opens with Daemon on Caraxes at the Stepstones. He's calling for the crab feeder to come out and face him. What this scene is showing you is that the crab feeder strategy with his army, they have many men, but they're hiding in the caves. This presents a problem for the dragons. It also is tough to pull something like this off where when an army has dragons to convince us that they can't just dominate that war, that they're almost superpowered. But they do a pretty good job here. And I like this opening scene sets up where the approach that Daemon is having of just simply coming on a dragon is not going to work. And that he's going to have to do something even more heroic by the end of this episode, which we'll get to take down the crab feeder and win over the Valyrian army and gain more status. So with our main plot line, we have another time jump, and it seems like every episode is going to be a time jump, which I'm actually really enjoying. I think it's making the show stand out and feel very different. I haven't really experienced this before in a show like this, and I think it's pretty cool, and it makes it like a big event. You're trying to kind of fill in the pieces of what's happened since, which I like. But we see now this is 3-year time jump, and Viserys and Alicent already have a son here, and it's Aegon, and it's his second name day. And it's Aegon named after Aegon the Conqueror, so he's Aegon the Second. And that Alicent is already pregnant again, too, so there's another kid on the way. But you see, right from the start, people are already rumbling about Aegon being the new heir and to replace Rhaenyra. And you see that Otto's already being told, like, you're the hand, you need to convince Viserys to switch who the heir is going to be, that it should be Aegon. And Otto is all about politics and moving up, so he does realize this is the truth, and we'll see through the episode him making little plans to switch Viserys' mind towards Aegon being the heir. We see also at this name day event, King Viserys is being advised that Otto and Corlys are losing their war and that they really should step in here, but that's where Otto's like, it's going to make the crown look weak if you jump in now. But Viserys during all this is like, look, I'm just trying to party and find my daughter. Where is she? What Paddy Considine, who plays Viserys, does so well this episode is in this time jump showing a very broken Viserys now, who's really just done with it. There's so much politics in his face. He's trying to connect with his daughter. He's always trying in a way to do the right thing, but he fails tradition, which we're going to get to that theme in this episode. But I love how he presents him here in his anger and frustration. I love when we first see Rhaenyra. She's sitting listening to this bard playing this song Under the Dragon's Eye, and I like that it's like Alexa for her, like, Alexa, play Under the Dragon's Eye again. And you see this song she's listening to as lyrics, she fled with her ships and her people, her heart broken for those, and it stops the singing there. But there's obviously a reason she's listening to that song. It is a rebellious song. It is her leaving with her people, so might be a little foreshadowing, we'll see. And again, people, I've not read the book, so no book spoilers anywhere in the comments, only stuff we've already seen in the show, please. So we see how complicated this relationship with Alicent and Rhaenyra is now. Her best friend is now her stepmom, and we see a little bit of tension here with her using her princess command to make the bard stay, but the queen overrides that and Alicent tells him to leave. And poor Alicent is in a very tough, complicated spot and is trying to do right by Rhaenyra, but knows that this is something that you can't get past, this awkward situation they are in. And I like when they're on their way to Kingswood as this complicated family that little Aegon's got his little dragon toy. I thought that was adorable. And Viserys is like, I want grandkids to Rhaenyra. He wants her to marry. He also wants her to go out on the hunt with him today. He's trying to connect with her. She wants nothing to do with it. And she is in this nightmare, realized she is seriously under a threat now of losing her title as heir. Now, it's important to notice little moments with characters like Daemon and Rhaenyra, we learn, haven't talked in years. And also, when all these women are gossiping, Alicent sticks up for Rhaenyra and says that she's more suited to the role of heir than Daemon ever was, which is a nice moment between the two of them. Now we get to see some Lannister time here with Jason Lannister courting Rhaenyra, and he's talking about having her at Casterly Rock, and she figures out what's up once he mentions he's got to get a dragon pit. So this leads to Rhaenyra freaking out to Viserys, and he's like, you're of age. Jason is an excellent match. And she says he's arrogant and self-serious. And Viserys goes, well, I thought you might have that in common. Damn, Dad. And this is when Viserys snaps. And he says, even I do not exist above tradition and duty, Rhaenyra. Because Rhaenyra says she doesn't want to get married. He gets that, but he's not putting that against tradition. And this is the whole theme of this episode. The big difference between Viserys and Rhaenyra is one can resist having to feel that pressure of doing what's tradition against their own will, where Rhaenyra is not like that. And there's more into that, which I want to keep going into as the episode goes on. And this really was a standout scene because he's losing his cool to Rhaenyra, making a scene in front of everybody here, and it's just an attribute to how good Paddy Considine is doing as acting this character through the years. Now, this is where Otto brings up the White Hart, this really rare stag. That's a good sign for Aegon here. It looks great. Otto's doing this to start manipulating Viserys to switch who the heir is going to be. Like, hey, look, this is a symbol here that Aegon's supposed to be the one. And you see when Viserys is talking to Otto, he turns, Rhaenyra is gone. That's just speaking a lot of volumes too, just seeing that shot, because he feels he's losing his daughter here, who he cares deeply about. Now, this White Stag story part is really important. I want to get more into that and how it affects Rhaenyra. But you see Criston Cole runs after her after she leaves. And he has a nice moment with her, thanking her, saying, all I have, I owe to you. I hardly call that toothless, princess, because she was talking down about herself. And he says basically this really good compliment to her and showing her how powerful she was and totally winning her over. Clearly, Rhaenyra has her eye on Criston Cole, if anybody, to be someone she might pick as her husband. So where Viserys is starting to really lose it and getting hammered is when Jason Lannister, he feels, is suggesting that he picks his heir on a whim, and this offends him. Then he's got Otto suggesting Aegon to marry Rhaenyra, and he's like, what the hell? And then you see Lord Strong suggests Lord Corlys' son to make up on Viserys not marrying Lord Corlys' daughter. Still, Lord Strong probably has had the wisest suggestions to Viserys yet. You see, too, Rhaenyra asks Cole out in the woods, like, will the realm accept me as queen, which is going to be a big conflict later on. They're definitely setting up here. She's already having those fears. And this boar assaults her in the woods. Criston Cole saves her, but then she slaughters this thing, taking all this anger out on the boar. And you see when she comes back to camp like a boss, you know, she's brought the boar home. She's actually feeding people too. And Viserys is such a fascinating character. He's so conflicted on so many things, but we really get insight into his character and how he's feeling when he talks to Alicent in front of the fire here. And he's like, I named Rhaenyra to protect the realm from Daemon. And he talks again about this vision we learned about in episode 1 of his son on the throne, obsessing over it, and he feels his obsession and wanting that to happen, willing it to happen, is what got his wife killed. And he thought Rhaenyra making her heir was the way out of his guilt, making up for this, and to set things right. But he's like, I never imagined I would remarry and have a son. So he's like, what if I was wrong about Rhaenyra being the way out of his guilt and making things right? And this scared me for a second, because then you're wondering if he is going to start listening to people about changing the heir with Rhaenyra, but you'll see by the end of the episode he comes back to his senses a bit, but he's always conflicted. So we see now in the woods, though, a brown stag is what's caught, not the white stag. And you see how Viserys kills this brown stag. He's not even doing it out of any joy or glee like this moment's supposed to be. And this is saying a lot. The brown stag is what showed up for Aegon, meaning he is not meant to be this heir. And it's also showing that Viserys always succumbs to tradition because he killed the brown stag, but he doesn't actually want to. And I love then this cuts to Rhaenyra and the white stag showing up to her. She's the one who is supposed to be heir. And the big character moment I loved and thought was beautiful is that Rhaenyra let it go, let it free, didn't kill it like Criston Cole suggested, because she rejects tradition. She doesn't succumb to it like Viserys does. Awesome stuff here. Now, Otto's conversation with Alicent is not stuff Alicent wants to hear. Otto saying, you mustn't ignore the certain truth that if Rhaenyra to overstep Aegon, the realm would tear itself apart. And he's talking about this is the way religion, tradition wants. He's like, at the end of the day, she is a woman. This isn't what we do. This is also speaking so powerfully thematically too, and this speaks to even modern times and struggles women have, and that we're letting tradition and what we're used to being the simple reason of why this can't be a woman or this position can't be a woman. So it feels so modern yet in such an old tale. And he's like, Aegon will be king. You must guide Viserys towards reason. He will never find it on its own. This is the big conflict for Alicent here. Alicent does not want Rhaenyra to lose her position as heir, but is getting pressure now from her father and the realm. Now, Alicent gives Viserys always the best wisdom in his heart and what he needs to do for him to feel happy and good. And she has a great line, I believe Rhaenyra will marry, but she must believe it is her choice to do so. It's great to see that Viserys actually listened to this advice, because by the end of the episode, he does say, to Rhaenyra, look, you know and I know that in this world we're in, marrying is essential to move up, to make bonds, to multiply, and actually help your claim to the throne in general. But he's like, fine, you choose who you want to marry, which gives Rhaenyra a smile at the end of the day and promises her that he is not going to replace her as heir. So we got to see if he keeps his word on that. But this will start to heal, for the time being, the relationship between Viserys and Rhaenyra and give her some hope again. And also we see this letter that is sent to Viserys from Corlys's brother, that they're losing the war and a plea for aid. And he's worried with pride, saying, what will that say if I help them? And Alicent again gives him great advice. Perhaps that he's a good man who loves his brother. And then Alicent decides to just keep it simple for Viserys. Like, look, is it better for the realm if Crabfeeder thrives or if he is vanquished? Just making sense. So it's interesting now in this big final big battle scene. And what's also just interesting in general about this show is there is like this feeling of Rhaenyra is amazing, Viserys is amazing. But I feel like in the back of our minds, we're all wondering during the episode, each episode, like, what's Daemon up to? Where is he? Because he is really a scene stealer and a showstopper. And that happens again here in this episode. And we get to see that Laenor Velaryon, Corlys' son, really set the battle up scene here when he's showing the map, and that they have to have someone as bait to flesh out the crab feeder and his men to come out of these caves, and that it's a death sentence whoever wants to do this. And he's the one who suggests Daemon. And Daemon hasn't done this yet. At this point, really isn't there yet to do it, to have the courage, but he actually uses motivation of anger by his brother sending this letter of aid. This is exactly what Daemon does not want. Viserys knows that, but this is what motivates Daemon to do something heroic and gain the trust of the Valyrian army and respect, and to be the one who does this death mission. And Daemon literally waves the white flag here as a trick, as being the bait himself, hands his sword over, and then awesomely takes out a knife and gets the guy. And this was so thrilling to see him run basically as a one-man show for a bit, avoiding these arrows and taking out all these men. And Ramin Djawadi, the best composer in TV, literally just has fun here with so many different sounds and really good score here during this sequence. And it's such a big moment with Daemon having his back against the wall, being surrounded, and you see the motivation he inspired in his troops, the Valyrian army. And not only that, but that dragon that comes through is being ridden by Laenor Velaryon, which was really cool. It might have been hard to catch, but it's him, and that was actually really sick, and how Daemon motivated everybody for this win and having that dragon come around. And it wasn't overkill with the dragon either, which I liked. It made sense that the goal was to get that army fully out there for the dragon to take care of them, so you needed that human army to get that done. And I love the shot of Daemon bringing out the crab feeder out of the cave, and you see the dragon flying above. That was beautiful. Nice touch by the cinematography there. And the blood all over Daemon. He's won over the people. This is what he wanted. Daemon gets stuff done. That's what you love about his character. Again, he's very gray, but unlike Viserys, he really does do what needs to be done. So it's a really cool character, and he steals every episode, the guy. I mean, from the bridge scene last week and just every scene he was in the premiere, Matt Smith is killing it here. I'm giving this episode a 9.3. I still think it's just a little under the premiere. It's not as tight as the premiere was, but it's definitely an improvement to last week by a little bit. So again, I mean, it's all good. I'm enjoying all of it. 9.3 is high. I think this was great. You got an awesome battle sequence. Again, there's a lot of talking and plot here, but I'm so invested in it and interested in it that it's all still serving the plot and serving character at the same time, which I appreciate. There's an engagement here. I'm going to throw a little dig at Rings of Power, which I don't review, but I did watch the first 2 episodes. The problem with that is I am not engaged by that show. There's not enough conflict where you just compare 2 fantasy shows where Rings of Power is just expanding in different worlds, but you're kind of just touching base with characters, but you're not gripped, you're not feeling conflict, you're not feeling engaged in what's going to happen next. This is so focused to House of Dragon, where I feel like Rings of Power so far is very unfocused. I don't know why I had to throw that dig in, but I felt it because I feel like that's also all in over our minds, where these 2 huge high-budget fantasy shows are kind of competing with each other. And I'm just noticing by watching Rings of Power what House of Dragon is doing so right and what Rings of Power is doing so wrong in the writing department. But overall, 9.3 for this episode. Let me know what you thought. I have an interview coming out with Graham McTavish for the show this week, probably coming out on Tuesday, so really stay tuned for that. We're going to talk all about the show. And please subscribe. It helps me in so many ways. It's a competitive show, so any subscription I can get or a like And you can even, if you really love this, send a tip. There's a thanks button below, or become a member today. You get exclusive perks, and that donates as well. I appreciate all you guys. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.